Hello and welcome back to The Perch from the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. My name's Noah Zahn. I'm the local government reporter here. This week we'll be talking about City Drug Pharmacy in downtown Cheyenne. They were recently ordered to cease prescriptions and close their business. And there was a meeting with the Board of Pharmacy this week that turned dramatic, and the pharmacy is now seeking legal action. So we'll get to that in a bit. But before we get into that, let's get a quick local news roundup from some of our reporters here. I'm joined by Ivy Seacrest, our crime and public safety reporter, and Hannah Shields, our state government reporter. Let's start with you. What have you been working on recently?
So on Thursday this week, I attended the Joint Judiciary Committee's meeting in the Capitol in the afternoon, where they started talking about House Bill 125. House Bill 125 was a bill that was passed by the legislature earlier this year during the budget session, but was vetoed by Governor Gordon. What that bill would have done was basically uplift all gun-free zones across the state, including those in hospitals and school districts. And Governor Gordon vetoed it, saying that it was an overstep of the legislature. So Governor Gordon, right now through the executive branch and the State Building Commission, they are having meetings about proposing concealed carry gun laws in the Capitol Extension, which is an underground corridor that goes between the Hirschler Building and the Capitol. But what I do want to talk about today was testimony lawmakers heard from a superintendent of Washakie County School District 2 and a social studies teacher from that school district regarding concealed carry gun laws in that school. So in Washakie County School District 2, it is a concealed carry district, which means that their teachers are allowed to anonymously conceal carry in the classroom. What Superintendent Annie Griffin was telling lawmakers was that, the district found this was needed for their school because where they're located in the state, it takes law enforcement about 18 minutes to reach them. So that way, with having their teachers armed, they feel safer in the classroom and they're able to protect their students. However, at the same time, Griffin was telling lawmakers she wasn't super comfortable with allowing anybody to just conceal carry a gun into the building, especially given, during frustrated parents, during teacher conference meetings, or, when you have adults visiting from out of the school district for sports games. Things can get pretty crazy, pretty heated, and she wasn't sure how she felt about, allowing people to be armed during those situations. What social studies teacher Emma Reed was telling lawmakers is that as a government teacher, she felt it was appropriate to show her students House Bill 125, go over the bill's language, and kind of get that reaction from her students. And she said the initial reaction from those students was, why? Why is this needed? She said, she told lawmakers the students just didn't really see a need for allowing anyone to conceal carry in the school. And in fact, a lot of the students were a little bit hesitant over allowing strangers, adults that they don't know, come in and potentially be armed. One of the first concerns of the students was the fact that concealed carry means you can't tell who is carrying the gun, right? It's concealed. Emma, she brought up to her students that, the teachers are allowed to conceal carry. And the students told the teacher that the difference was that they trust their teachers. They trust that they're there to protect them and that they have their best interests in mind. When it comes to a random adult coming into the school or coming into a sports game and just carrying a gun, they're a little bit hesitant about that. Emma even mentioned that there's one student in her class who said he is very pro-Second Amendment, but even this bill, he told her, just went a little bit too far. So that was just basically the testimony from Griffin and Reed. It was just to tell them this is what teachers are feeling. This is what students are feeling about allowing concealed carry in school districts when you consider any legislation that would allow that to happen. As I mentioned earlier, the State Building Commission is currently taking public comment on allowing concealed carry in the Capitol Extension. And I've written a story about that and the reasons that could also be another complex issue and what that discussion is looking like. But the State Construction Department is currently taking public comment on those rules, which can be viewed, and a public form can be filled out on their website at sfd.wyo.gov. They will be taking public comment through October 2nd, and this topic will be further addressed during the State Building Commission's next meeting on October 9th in the Capitol.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. Now, Ivy, what have you been working on?
So this week I also took a bit of a break from my typical crime beat and attended the Wyoming Legislature's Joint Judiciary Committee meeting, except I was there in the morning to cover concerns about homelessness and squatters issues in the state of Wyoming. And during that conversation, a Casper realtor by the name of Rana Borrell went and testified to the committee about an experience she had had removing squatters from a property that she thought was vacant. She told the committee that she had rented a property to a couple. The couple had slowly moved out of the property, leaving the state for Wisconsin, and told her that the property would be cleaned and that she could go check it out. She assumed that the property would be vacant. When she arrived, there were several men occupying the home. They came out, as she described, from all corners of the house and asked her what she was doing there. She told them that she was going to ask them the same thing and ask, what are you doing on my property? And she learned very quickly that the Casper law enforcement was not empowered by the legislature to do anything, that squatters' rights are typically viewed as a civil issue, and that she was going to have to either get them to leave herself or go through an eviction process, even though she didn't have a formal lease with these tenants or these supposed tenants. She went back with a friend, and the squatters had left on their own, but they had trashed the place. There were dirty mattresses and drug paraphernalia, and the entire incident cost her about $15,000 is what she told the committee. And so that experience had her partner up with State Senator Jim Anderson from Casper to make the Residential Property Removal of Unlawful Occupant draft bill, which was considered on Thursday. This was considered alongside another bill called the Use of Fraudulent Documents to Wrongfully Possess Property. And ultimately, what the committee decided was to push both bills ahead to their November meeting to give committee members time to revisit the wording and address some of the concerns that several stakeholders brought up during that time period. They had attorneys talk about the existing laws that could be applied here, as well as like what the need would be for these new bills if they were to push them through. They had sheriffs talk about the wording in the bill that is heavily focused on sheriffs. A lot of the involvement of law enforcement in this bill is focused on sheriffs explicitly. So instead of saying tenants are able to file complaints with law enforcement, they say file complaints with the sheriff. So they're going to revisit that wording as well, just so all law enforcement can be involved and the onus isn't just put on the sheriff. But ultimately, I mean, it was really focused on the safety of the realtor and the property manager and addressing how do we discern between a tenant who's defaulted on an agreement and has their own rights within that property as opposed to a trespasser who never had an agreement with a property manager that has taken it upon themselves to occupy a vacant building. So it'll be very interesting to see what they come up with and if they decide to just adjust existing trespassing law or to write up and pass this bill.
Great. Thank you, Ivy and Hannah. If you'd like to learn more, be sure to follow up with those stories in print or online. Now let's head over to the Board of Pharmacy meeting this week, where over 100 attendees showed up in support of City Drug, and it turned quite dramatic, and one attendee ended up being removed from the meeting by law enforcement. More than 100 community members packed into a meeting room in the Wyoming State Capitol Extension last week in support of City Drug, one of Cheyenne's 2 independent pharmacies. An investigation earlier this year led to an order for the downtown business to close its doors, and its employees may lose their pharmaceutical licenses. 2 weeks ago, Wyoming's Board of Pharmacy held an emergency meeting to order the pharmacy to cease dispensing of prescriptions for hospice patients and wrap up prescriptions in its queue by September 26th. City Drug was also ordered to wrap up any outstanding business by October 10th. Many attendees there said that they were informed by investigators from the Board of Pharmacy that they would be allowed to provide public comment at this meeting. But they were shocked whenever they were denied the opportunity to provide this feedback whenever they arrived.
Board staff has received calls and emails from the public about the summary suspension of City Drugs Wyoming resident retail pharmacy license. Today's meeting is not a hearing on the suspension of the City Drugs Pharmacy license. Considering comments and evidence outside the contested case hearing would be inappropriate or improper because it could have due influence on the board members. This is a pending matter and an active investigation. The order summary suspending City Drugs license is not a final order, and City Drug has a right to a contested case hearing. The minutes from the September 12th meeting are in the board packet. Meeting where the board found that the public's health, safety, and welfare imperative required emergency action were included in the board packet.
So are we not getting public comment, ma'am? We have all these people who want to speak on behalf of drugs.
I'm speaking. Let's just go from that. The additional minutes from the March 14th.
That's Board President Brenda Upton.
And March 9th.
Now, it's unclear when the investigation will be complete and when the community will be able to formally submit public comment, but those attending offered passionate testimonials in support of the local pharmacy nonetheless. The second item on the meeting agenda amended the suspension of the pharmacy license of Kelsey James, who's the owner of City Drug, to clarify the dates of when the business needs to conclude at the local pharmacy and was briefly discussed by the board. And then after that, board members continued discussing the following items on the agenda, and about 40 minutes in, they took a 10-minute recess. And before the break, the attendees asked why they wouldn't have the opportunity to provide public comment whenever they told they would be able to. And the board president didn't really provide a direct answer, so attendees took it upon themselves to share their own testimonials during this break in the meeting.
Just clarifying if we'll have the opportunity. That's all we're asking. If it will
At a later date.
Today, I think
Not today.
have that answer.
Possibly.
How can our voice be heard?
Your job is to hear our voice.
We pay you to sit there and listen to us.
This is our building here.
Okay, we're taking a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Who cares what we
You guys
say?
are
Take a
failing
break.
at your
You're
job.
working too hard. Take a break.
We can hear you because of a
As the board members were leaving the room, community members waved their signs that read, "Save City Drug, targeting small farm. Hospice patients need City Drug." And they were criticizing the board members as they left.
Just remember, this year's election.
This is how you thank us for our service, by walking away.
In the brief time that the members were gone, attendees realized that they would not have the opportunity to offer their testimonials and began presenting in front of the room, some with prepared speeches printed out and some speaking extemporaneously.
So the question comes up, when can we speak? When
I don't
can
know,
we make our
they don't want us to
voices
speak.
heard?
I say we speak when they come back. They work for us.
Well, I agree with you, but like all us all.
I think we just all stand up and talk. They have to listen to us. They just like to read the news as it is.
Dan, who is a client of City Drug, said that he's been taking a drug that helps fentanyl addicts recover from their addiction. When his medication was stolen and Medicare did not cover the drug he was seeking, he said James worked with him to help find a way to continue to receive his medication, which he said saved his life.
I wanted to share my story with Chelsea about how my medication has been stolen. If I did not have my medication, I am very suicidal. If it wasn't for Chelsea, I would have committed suicide a long time ago. I'm so thankful for City Drug and Chelsea to take me into her heart and to help me get my medication. See, when I told her this story, she says, "Okay, Daniel, I can do this. I know how to get around this. I will help you." If it wasn't for Chelsea, I would be dead today. And all I want to say is thank you to City Drug and Chelsea.
Following Dan's speech, Sally Whelan went to the front of the room to speak to the audience while the board was still in recess. She said that she works for a hospital system in Cheyenne and has a good working relationship with James since 2019. Even though they work for different companies, she noted that they're all on the same team of supporting healthcare in the community. In her speech, Whelan referenced a mistake she said was made by a former pharmacist at City Drug, which led to this whole investigation and license suspension.
My name is Sally Whelan, and I was told by the organization I work with not to mention who I worked with, which is concerning to me even in that. I don't understand why there's so much secrecy going on with something that is affecting all of us here. So I will just say that I work for a hospital system in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and have since 2007, okay? I met Kelsey in 2019 when she started working for a local pharmacy. During that time, it became evident to me that she was not only incredibly smart, but also that she truly cared for our patients. And I say our patients because we work as a team. Pharmacists, nurses, doctors, we're a team.
As Whelan was speaking, the board members re-entered the room and were greeted with a roar of boos, and the board president banged her gavel 3 times in an attempt to resume the meeting, but Whelan continued speaking.
The failure that we are sharing is not Kelsey's mistake. We all make mistakes. In this instance, Kelsey was not the one who made the mistake. A pharmacist working in her store made the
Your time to
mistake.
be quiet.
When Kelsey became aware of the mistake, Kelsey worked with the state.
3 more gavel bangs came from Upton as Whelan continued to speak, and then she was notified she would be escorted out of the room if she didn't stop.
Not only did she stop compounding that particular medication, she stopped
I want
compounding
everybody to know that
completely.
if they gavel in and they interrupt, this is what I'm talking. If they interrupt, they will remove
She
you.
sold all of her compounding equipment and closed that area of her store. I know this to be true because she contacted my facility during that initial investigation and told us what had happened and what she was doing to correct the situation.
After she persisted, law enforcement entered and grabbed Whelan as she continued to speak and began to escort her out of the room. Attendees protested as the altercation escalated when one officer grabbed her arm.
I have made mistakes in my professional career.
It was him.
Thankfully,
Oh, I didn't mean-
none have
you can go
compromised their patients' health.
Yeah, don't touch me either.
Yeah, try it again.
Give
it a rest, pal.
Where's our voice? Do we not get a voice? Are we nothing? You work for us, right?
You only want to follow rules.
No,
I'd like to
no.
take my phone there. I'd like to pick up my phone.
Where's our
Let
voice?
her get her.
Let
God,
go
let
of
her
my
get her
arm.
phone.
I am not
Being a
attacking
putz.
you. Do not touch me. Do not touch me. No, I'm going to get my phone. I'm going to get my phone. No, let go of me. Let go of me. Let go of me. Let go of me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. No, don't touch me. I would like my phone and my keys, please. Let go of me.
Let's go, please. You guys need to grow up, man.
They will remove you if we interrupt again.
You gotta be ashamed of yourself.
What they say?
Now there's everyone.
Shame on all of you.
You only follow rules when it suits your narrative. You allow Jonathan Beatty and not only consider part of
and
the
it's
motion,
sad you're taking
but also the margin in which you allow him to motion and vote when he is the investigative board member, which violates your own
Yeah,
rules.
it's supposed to be part of the
That's
fighting
Chapter
plan.
1.
I think I am. I like
Yeah, you would be. Look at you.
Jonathan Beatty had to be told again at the meeting last week that he had to stop and recuse himself because he was the investigative board member.
As attendees kept protesting the denial to offer their public comments, Upton adjourned the meeting prematurely as she was unable to continue discussion without further interruption from the attendees, and the board members exited through the back door.
That's right. And when you're that ignorant,
Will not get their prescriptions because of you. Shame on you.
I have 3 pages of where Liz Wood misrepresented facts to the board and where Jonathan Beatty violated Section 6 of Chapter 1.
You need to move to
Yeah, you're a joke.
You're all
That
a
smile that
joke.
you got on your face.
How did you guys even get on the board?
The next day, the Wyoming Highway Patrol released a statement saying that a woman, though they didn't name Whelan specifically, was subsequently issued a citation for disrupting government facilities, which is a misdemeanor offense. Due to these disruptions, the meeting was cut short and rescheduled for the next day at 9 a.m. But before adjourning the meeting last Wednesday, the board did approve the minutes of all of their previous meetings over the past few months, dating back to March, and having these released offered some more insight into why the board was wanting to shut down City Drug. According to the minutes from the board's March 14th meeting, Wyoming Board of Pharmacy senior investigator Liz Wood found that City Drug did not have the necessary equipment to perform sterile compounding, which is the process of mixing, combining, or altering ingredients to make a medication that's tailored to a patient's needs. However, they were found to have been compounding semaglutide, which is a medication used for weight loss. Also at the March 14th meeting, James said that she had ceased the sterile compounding of semaglutide and informed patients that they were no longer dispensing it. She said she had been presented with information about the practice and was misinformed about what was allowed. She noted that City Drug is doing internal restructuring to make sure something like that did not happen again in the future. And the board voted unanimously to order City Drug to cease all compounding activities until the investigation is complete. A few weeks later, at their March 29th meeting, the minutes note that James was commended for making significant progress in non-sterile compounding. Competencies and records were in place, and the organization of the pharmacy had improved, the minutes noted. The only concern raised was the presence of dirty compounding utensils in the sink. James explained that these were left over from the last time she was able to compound. This issue was discussed, but no conclusion was reached. Despite the concern, it was acknowledged that James had made drastic improvements in her pharmacy. Fast forward to September, at their September 12th special meeting, Wood presented to the Board of Pharmacy that a patient had received 2 prescription bottles of compounded medication from South Street Pharmacy, which is in Wheatland. This person had been a patient of City Drug, which was sending the medication to South Street Pharmacy to be compounded and then delivered by City Drug. However, the 2 bottles had distinctly different labels, and Wood reported that South Street staff believed one of them to be false. This led to suspicion from Wood that City Drug had compounded one of the medications because South Street was unable to make the second prescription, even though they were not allowed to do so. Additionally, the medication with the suspected false label had the initials KJ, according to the minutes from September 12th. Tom Rumpke, an attorney representing City Drug, said he did not know where the prescriptions came from and argued that one instance does not create an immediate harm to public health sufficient to shut down a business that could put 26 people out of work. Brian Marvel, who was a senior assistant attorney general and prosecuting attorney for the board's investigative committee, he stated that the patient received this medication from City Drug, and there may only be one act of manufacturing a false label, but that one instance is sufficient enough to threat public safety. To ensure this does not happen again, he said it's in the public interest to suspend City Drug's license. After the meeting was adjourned last Wednesday, community members who showed up to support City Drug gathered in the hall of the Capitol Extension to speak to members of the media and offer further testimonials in support of City Drug. I spoke with Peyton Pontillo, who says she has both a personal and professional relationship with City Drug and James.
Professionally, I'm a hospice nurse here in town. Phenomenal pharmacy team. I've never worked with a better pharmacy team. They are kind, respectful, hardworking, and they're for every single one of our patients' need. They never turn us down. We've worked with many other pharmacies who do not share the same compassion and care for patients here in the local community. Personally, my daughter had cancer a year ago. My 1-year-old was diagnosed with cancer 2 weeks after her first birthday. Her name's Dottie. And City Drug worked diligently to ensure that she had everything that she needed to have the best recovery possible. She's alive, and not only alive but thriving today, and I think a huge part of that is because of City Drug and the way that they went above and beyond to advocate for her and make sure that she never went a day without a single thing that she needed.
I also spoke with Stephen Frausto, who's an administrator for a local hospice in Cheyenne.
And I have 24 patients that rely strictly on prescriptions and end-of-life prescriptions for their hospice care that is provided by City Drug. And City Drug gives us, the best prices we can get. They are the only pharmacy in town who does after-hour calls. They do free delivery. And so when we have a patient that is transitioning 2-3 o'clock in the morning, Kelsey is there filling those prescriptions for us so that our people can transition peacefully with their family. So not only is it helping the patient who is transitioning, it is bringing peace to the family that is watching their family members transition peacefully. But now, if someone passes at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, we have to predict that. So I'm going to have to find a magic crystal ball to make sure we have our prescriptions on hand now. So
Brett Myrick works as a delivery driver for City Drug, and he spoke to the character of James through sharing a story that stood out to him.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put one story on here and then I'll leave it be. Sure. We had a couple, a married couple, that were here in town. We delivered to them. The husband had a really bad, horrible medical problem. They had to life flight this man to Denver, okay? His wife obviously went with him. They got down there. Pretty soon the wife called on the after hours line to City Drug and said, oh my gosh, I left my medications at home. Could you next day air them so I can get them the day after tomorrow? Kelsey went down to the drugstore at night, put the medication together, and drove them to Denver that night. And that's supposedly a threat to the city? Give me a break.
City Drug staff and board pharmacy members did not comment for this story, noting that it is an ongoing investigation. But James did tell me that she would likely take this to the court in order to keep her business open. And the next day, City Drug filed for an amended petition for judicial review in the Laramie County District Court. Yesterday morning, the district courts did hold a hearing for City Drug's request for a temporary restraining order pending the legal action. The judge said that she will take the motion for a temporary restraining order under advisement and issue an order as soon as she can. That's all for this week's episode of The Perch from the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. Thank you to Ivy and Hannah for contributing to this week's episode, and be sure to tune back in next Wednesday for more.